This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, August 20th of 2024. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Food Bank of Iowa CEO Michelle Book at the last day of the Iowa State Fair on Sunday, where they held their annual casserole contest through the Iowa State Fair. There were plenty of entries there, a lot of creativity, and also a great cause to raise awareness for food insecurity in Iowa. But before we take a look at any of that, let's go ahead and look through the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're here with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. Ross, so far this week, we saw yesterday some green back on the market charts. What are we seeing today in the greens?
A little bit of a turnaround just from yesterday's strong showing, especially by corn, which yesterday, interestingly enough, was the fifth Monday in a row that corn closed higher. And pretty much every other time that's happened, we've spent the rest of the week being on the defensive side of things. And corn did that today. I mean, it was not an aggressive sell-off by any means, but corn was 2 cents lower here pretty much across the board. The nearby months were. Over in the bean market, beans ended the day just unchanged to a penny higher. Pretty quiet day. And in the wheat markets, they were 5 to 6 cents higher. So all in all, it was pretty quiet across the grains. Corn actually, the trading range was just a little over 3 cents. So I mean, it was extremely quiet across the corn market.
So looking at the soybean prices, we saw them really plummet recently, but that has put us below or we have a discount in the short term to the Brazilian soybean prices right now. I believe our corn is also discounted to them. So do we think we could see, export sales pick up there, or is this mostly, at this point in the marketing year anyways, we're kind of not necessarily looking at too much change from that, right?
We actually did see another day of daily flash sales this morning for soybeans, which we've seen those daily sales pick up. And this morning we had just a little under 240,000 metric tons to Mexico, 132,000 metric tons to China. And that definitely supported beans right out the gate. They traded firmer. They bounced off the lows, like you said here recently. We got down to 9.55 on beans, and right now today going home, we're about a little over 20 cents off of those lows. But beans, they were unable to hold those strong gains. We closed, it was about 9 cents off the highs. We got up to 9.85 right now. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good sign to see these bean exports pick up, which that's been the concern for the soybean market here recently, is that our new crop exports have just been lagging so far behind what we normally do. So it's definitely encouraging to see those, especially with China, those sales picking up here.
And then looking at the other side of the ag marketplace with the livestock, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
It was a beatdown across the cattle market today. Live cattle closed 3 to 350 lower. The nearby August contract, that one wasn't down as bad. That one we were $1.80 lower, which that one's finding support given the discount that August has to cash trade. But then over in the feeder cattle market, they were $4 to $5 lower. Just the managed money crowd, they've remained a good sized long across the live cattle market. And recently they've went short on feeders. And there's been some chatter across that's people are talking about that feeder cattle short, and rightfully so. I mean, it's concerning given the prices that feeders are at. And there's just not a lot of bullish news out here. So the big question is, will the funds continue to press feeders on the short side? And it's not super common, but it's also not uncommon to see the funds press into a short position on feeders. And I think that's the risk that you got out here. And that risk also spills over into live cattle. They were still long. I think it was like 40, just right around 45,000 net longs last week on the COT report that was as of Tuesday. That's still a decent size live cattle long relative to them being short feeders. So it seems more times than not, the funds don't really press the short side in the live cattle market, but when they want to really take risk off the table, it's pretty common to see them trim their live cattle long back to give or take 20,000 contracts. So I think you still got downside risk out here across the live cattle and the feeder cattle markets. And last week, cash trade across the live cattle market was $2 to $3 lower, and the Packers are getting good numbers around them, and they just don't don't got to be near as aggressive right now. And the cattle feeder is starting to feel a little bit of pressure here over the last couple weeks, and we're seeing the cattle feeders become more willing sellers than what they have for the last year. So I think that risk is, I think you're going to see cash trade lower again this week. It wouldn't surprise me to see it $1 or $2 lower, which there again spills out into the managed money crowd's risk, of lightening up this live cattle long and ultimately pressing the feeder short. So I think we still got more downside across the cattle markets. The hog markets was pretty quiet here today. They were 40 to 70 cents lower. Hogs have really been pretty quiet here recently. I think you're just more technical trading going on right now. You've got October hogs. It's holding right above the 9-day moving average, and I think that's key here to hold. But if you start to see the cattle market take off more, even following this sell-off that we've had, it's hard to be optimistic hogs. The hog market, there's just not a lot of friendly news for hogs. There's plenty of pork available worldwide, and we saw last week's pork exports here out of the U.S. were a marketing year low for hogs. So I don't think there's a whole lot of things across the hog market to get overly excited about.
All right, Ross, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch with the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net to find any of the ag market brokers.
All right, thanks again, Ross, for the great analysis as always, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thanks, Riley.
That again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers closed through the market window at iowaagnet.com. September corn down 3 even at 375 even. September soybeans up 1 even at 957 1/4. September soybean meal up 60 cents at 312.30. Soybean oil up 24 cents at 40.71. Chicago wheat up 4 3/4 at 533 even. Kansas City hard red wheat up 5 1/4 at 546 even. Minneapolis spring wheat up 3 even at 590 1/4. September oats up 9 3/4 at 330 1/2. On the Merc, October live cattle down 342 at 175.60. September feeders down 477 at 234.50. October lean hogs down 40 cents at 76.40. Pork cutout went unchanged at 90.92, and September class 3 milk up 21 cents at 22.51. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Food Bank of Iowa CEO Michelle Book. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Well, the last day of the Iowa State Fair was on Sunday, and later in that morning, we had the chance to go on out to the Elwell Center and check out the Food Bank of Iowa's annual casserole competition, where they had many different casseroles on display and a lot of creativity. And most importantly, as I talked with Food Bank of Iowa CEO Michelle Book, it was an event to raise awareness of the food insecurity battles that are going on in every single county in the state of Iowa. We just wrapped up the fourth casserole contest here at the Iowa State Fair. Plenty of entries here today. Michelle, tell us a little bit about this contest and just the pretty good variety that we had on display.
Oh, it was amazing. We had 30 to 40 casseroles, and it was everything, and they all looked fabulous. They came presented in different ways, cast iron and a variety of other attractive ways. But this is our fourth annual Food Bank of Iowa Chopped Casserole Contest. It's the fourth year that we've worked with Nationwide. Nationwide was the proud sponsor, so they have helped us with the prize-winning money. This year, the first prize won $1,200. We had a second and third prize winning as well. But Nationwide has been here to support this contest from the very beginning.
And then, as far as I know as well, there were a little bit of rules on the casseroles this year because
Yes.
we want to make sure this is affordable and impossible for families who might be getting ingredients from the pantry to cook. So tell us a little bit about that time and money constraint that was also placed on here to almost even enhance some creativity.
Well, yes. And what we did with the Iowa State Fair with the entry book that came out earlier this year, we provided them with a casserole table. So there were 6 types of ingredients that had to go into the casserole. And we provided on that casserole table things that a pantry visitor would likely be able to access at a pantry, so that we know that they could get these ingredients at a food pantry. That serving per person needed to be $5 or less. The casserole altogether had to come together in 60 minutes or less, so a busy family could use this recipe in a cost-effective way to put food on the table quickly, so last less than 60 minutes. So the contest itself, the judging was 50% on flavor, 30% on preparation, and 20% on appearance. And I tell you, the judges were behind the curtain for a long time. They had a very difficult time deliberating on this today. And the outcome of this casserole contest is that we'll take the 3 winning casserole recipes, we'll put those in a cookbook that we've been accumulating these recipes for the last 4 years to put in a cookbook. We'll publish that with Food Bank of Iowa and Nationwide. But the most important thing that we're doing here today with this casserole contest is to build awareness for people who are struggling to make ends meet, building awareness for people who are food insecure. Today, 42% of the kids in Iowa get breakfast and lunch paid for by the federal government at school. I think the number would be higher of the number of kids that are eligible. Probably half of our kids in Iowa are eligible for free and reduced breakfast and lunch. Food insecurity is a big problem in Iowa. It's a huge problem across the United States. Food insecurity is a problem for a number of reasons. Even though we think we've seen some increase in wages since COVID, it's slowed down. Wages really are stagnant across the Midwest. Affordable housing is a challenge, access to daycare, mental health care, physical health care. It's just the cost of living is simply beyond the reach of many Americans today. And we're seeing a huge increase in food insecurity. It continues to grow. It started on April of 2022, and food insecurity has continued to grow every month since April of 2022, when federal COVID relief programs sunsetted.
And we know here in Iowa, there's not a single county that does not have some level of food insecurity going on there. And like you mentioned earlier, single-parent households to raise a child, they're not making enough money on average to cover that cost to have enough food on the table consistently. And to have a challenge like this where those constraints are placed on there, not only I think highlights ways for those people to have recipes to cook, but I think it also drives the message home to people who are maybe watching or participating, the levels you have to go to make these things work in this economy now.
Yeah, you've got to clip coupons. You've got to go to several grocery stores to get the best prices. You have to take advantage of every cost-saving measure. A single parent with 1 child needs to gross more than $24 an hour. However, the median wage in Iowa, gross median wage in Iowa, is $21. So there's about $3.30 difference per hour that most Iowans, based on the median wage, are short when it comes to bringing home enough money to cover the cost of basic needs. So it's really important that we help people with ideas around how can they cost effectively feed their families. And then Food Bank of Iowa has got to continue to find more free and reduced price food. We've got to find more donated and rescued food. We've got to get it to Iowans who are struggling to make ends meet as quickly as we can.
And Michelle, on the contest side of things, you mentioned that advocacy is one of the most important things to fighting food insecurity. Nationwide, a great sponsor for this contest to make a lot of this possible. Having that partnership from a company like Nationwide obviously helps a ton to get that advocacy out there, right?
nationwide, it's the largest insurer of agriculture and agriculture families across the United States. So their very culture of their company is around protecting and keeping their customers safe. Well, they take it a step further because they want to make sure that all Americans, where Nationwide operates, they want to make sure that those Feeding America food banks are supported. So all of the people in those communities have access to enough nutritious food, adequate and consistent nutritious food to live healthy lives. And Nationwide is thoroughly, completely invested in that. As a Feeding America food bank, Nationwide is by my side today at the fair, but every day throughout the year, Nationwide is by my side.
And when we talk about this contest in general as well, hopefully we get even more entrants every year. So for anyone who might be interested in entering this contest in the future, what is the process like to go about that?
Well, and again, this is, I believe it might be one of the largest, if not the largest cash prize at the Iowa State Fair with a $1,200 first place ribbon. You also get some notoriety around that. So in order to join an Iowa State Fair cooking contest, the rules are released by the Iowa State Fair shortly after the holidays. Tags have to be purchased in May. I think the final deadline to purchase a tag might be July 7th, depending on where that day falls next year. So after the holidays, go onto the Iowa State Fair site and download the catalog and see all of the amazing cooking contests that one can enter. And then certainly submit and get your tags early. If you go up to the first week of July, I think you pay a late fee for that. But you just need to get a tag and make sure you know the rules of the cooking contest, and then be here on Sunday, the last day of the fair, and with your casserole, and we're gonna rock and casserole again next year.
All right, Michelle, lots of great information for anyone who would like to get in touch, learn more about the food bank, volunteer or donate, or even receive food themselves. How can they do that?
Yeah, please go to www.foodbankiowa.org to find food if you need food assistance right now. And please, if you need food assistance right now, reach out, find a pantry or a meal site near you. From foodbankiowa.org, you can also find ways to donate to the food bank. 96 cents of every dollar goes toward purchasing food and getting it to our partners. We can feed an Iowan for less than $2 a day. Go to foodbankiowa.org to volunteer, to help support us financially, and to learn more about food insecurity so you can advocate with your lawmaker and with your friends and family and coworkers.
Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time to visit as always, and congrats on another successful contest at the Iowa State Fair.
Another one in the bag.
That again was Food Bank of Iowa CEO Michelle Book. That's all the time we have for Ag Matters PM today. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well to check out our morning, midday, and closing market podcasts wherever you find your favorite podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.